March 17th, 1943, Turpitzufer 76-78 Berlin. The folder slammed onto the mahogany desk with such force that coffee splashed from Admiral Wilhelm Canaris's porcelain cup, staining intelligence reports that would have meant execution if discovered by the Gestapo. Impossible! The Americans are feeding us propaganda through turned agents. Through the tall windows of Abwehr headquarters, Canaris could see the Landwehr Canal, where Rosa Luxemburg's body had been dumped 24 years earlier. Now, as chief of German military intelligence, he held in his trembling hands a report that challenged not just Nazi propaganda, but the entire mathematical foundation of German victory. According to intercepted communications and reports from agents still operating in Mexico City, the Ford Motor Company's Willow Run plant was producing one 4-engine B-24 Liberator bomber every hour. The B-24 Liberator, 1.5 million individual parts, 450,000 rivets, 30,000 separate components, assembled into an 18-ton aircraft, rolling off an assembly line faster than Germany could produce a simple Kubelwagen military vehicle. Major Friedrich Wilhelm Heinz, standing at attention before Canaris's desk, had triple-checked the intelligence. The numbers remained the same. What neither man knew was that this moment would trigger the most devastating intelligence failure in modern warfare: the systematic inability of German intelligence to comprehend, to believe, or to effectively communicate the true scale of American industrial capacity to the Nazi leadership, dooming the Third Reich through a fatal miscalculation of mathematical inevitability. The collapse of German intelligence regarding American production had begun 2 years earlier. In 1941, Luftwaffe General Karl Kohler had presented Hermann Göring with reports from military attaché General Friedrich von Pischer in Washington, stating that American aircraft production was approaching 2,000 planes per month. Göring had laughed, literally laughed, declaring, "Americans could only build refrigerators and razor blades, not military aircraft." "The Americans are bluffing," Göring had told Hitler at the Wolf's Lair in December 1941, 4 days after Pearl Harbor. "Their democracy makes them weak. Their mongrel population makes them inefficient. Their Jews make them corrupt. With finality, they cannot possibly produce what they claim." By March 1943, German intelligence networks across the Americas were reporting something that defied every assumption of Nazi racial theory and economic understanding. The reports came from different sources: Mexican industrialists sympathetic to Germany, Spanish diplomats, Swedish businessmen traveling through Detroit, even intercepted letters from American workers to relatives in neutral countries. They all said the same impossible thing. Ford's Willow Run plant alone was producing more heavy bombers than all of Germany's aircraft factories combined. Oberstleutnant Nicholas Ritter, head of the Abwehr's Air Intelligence Section, had spent 3 weeks analyzing the data. Respectfully, a former Luftwaffe pilot who had lived in America for 10 years before the war, Ritter understood American industrial capacity better than most German officers. His apartment in Manhattan during the 1920s had overlooked the construction of the Chrysler Building. He had watched Americans erect the world's tallest building in less than 2 years.
Herr Admiral, Ritter reported to Canaris, if these numbers are correct, and I believe they are, then Germany has already lost the war. It is now only a question of mathematics and time. The intelligence came through precarious routes, each more dangerous than the last. Georg Nicholas, running the Abwehr's primary network in Mexico City, had cultivated sources among American businessmen who traveled freely between Detroit and Mexico's oil fields. These men spoke casually of miracles they witnessed, unaware their dinner conversations were being transcribed by German agents. On February 3, 1943, American oil executive Harold Morrison attended a reception at the German-Mexican Commerce Association in Mexico City.
After several tequilas, Morrison began describing his recent tour of the Willow Run facility, arranged by Ford to showcase to potential investors the company's capability to fulfill government contracts. "Gentlemen," Morrison had said, unaware that Wolfgang Blau, a German agent posing as an Argentine leather merchant, was memorizing every word, "what I saw defies description. The assembly line is over 1 mile long, the building so vast that clouds form inside it, and it sometimes rains within the factory. They have 42,000 workers, including thousands of women, Negro women, building the most complex machine ever created." Morrison had pulled out a pencil and began sketching on a napkin. "The bomber has 2 bomb bays, each holding 4,000 pounds of ordnance, 4 engines, each producing 1,200 horsepower. They produce them in sections, sub-assemblies, Ford calls them, that converge like rivers flowing into the sea. Wing sections arrive from one direction, fuselages from another, tail assemblies from a third. They meet at precise points along the line. But surely such complexity means frequent breakdowns, production delays." Morrison had laughed. "That's what Consolidated Aircraft thought. They mocked Ford, said you can't build planes like cars. But Ford broke the bomber down into 60,000 separate operations. Each worker performs the same task over and over." A bit wistful, a woman who yesterday was making breakfast for her children now installs hydraulic lines in the tail section. They train them in days, not months. Perhaps the most detailed intelligence came through Francisco Franco's Spain. Colonel José Ungría, Spanish military attaché in Washington, maintained close relationships with American aircraft manufacturers, while secretly providing intelligence to Germany, in exchange for tungsten shipments crucial to Spanish industry. In March 1943, Ungría attended a reception at the Argentine embassy, where he met Charles Sorensen, Ford's production chief, and the architect of Willow Run. Sorensen, believing he was speaking to a representative of a neutral nation that might purchase aircraft after the war, spoke freely about the plant's capabilities. When I first visited Consolidated's San Diego plant in 1940, he said, unaware that every word would be in Berlin within 2 weeks, they were building B-24s outdoors in the sunshine, each one different from the last, taking 180,000 man-hours per aircraft. I knew we could do better. Quadius, Hungria, pressed for details, claiming professional interest as a military engineer. Proudly, Sorensen obliged. I spent one night in my hotel room in San Diego sketching out the entire production flow. Thoughtfully, we would build bombers like we build cars, not by having workers swarm over a stationary aircraft, but by moving the aircraft past stationary workers. Each worker would perform specific tasks repeatedly, achieving perfection through repetition. The Spaniard asked about workforce challenges of such complexity. We built an apprentice school that trains 8,000 workers weekly, Sorensen replied. Women comprise 40% of our workforce. They're actually better at detailed work, smaller hands for tight spaces, more patient for repetitive tasks. We have Negro workers operating sophisticated machinery. We have boys of 16 managing supply logistics. With pride, democracy, Colonel, means utilizing all alaving human resources, valence human resources, through Swedish, Argentine, Japanese, and Turkish channels. German intelligence received consistent reports confirming Willow Run's production rate. Swedish engineer Eric Lundberg visited the plant in March 1943 and reported, "The plant operates with efficiency that defies European understanding. They use 1,600 specialized machine tools, many designed for single operations. The capital investment is staggering, perhaps $200 million for tooling alone." Japanese Commander Toshikazu Omi's coded message to Tokyo, intercepted by German intelligence, provided independent verification. This single factory produces more aircraft monthly than the entire Japanese aviation industry. By April 1943, German intelligence had assembled comprehensive data from 17 independent sources, confirming the production rate. The numbers were staggering. Willow Run alone was producing 650 B-24s monthly at peak, the entire American B-24 production exceeding 1,400 monthly. Desperate for ground truth, Canaris authorized Operation Pastorius, the insertion of saboteurs into the United States via submarine. George John Dash, leader of one of the 2 four-man teams, had lived in America for 20 years before returning to Germany in 1939. His secret orders from Canaris were to gather intelligence on aircraft production before conducting any sabotage operations. In the early morning hours of June 13, 1942, Dash's team landed at Amagansett, Long Island, having come ashore from U-202 just after midnight. Within days, tormented by the implications of his mission and what he already knew about American capacity, with despair, Dash surrendered to the FBI. During his interrogation, Dash revealed something that stunned his American captives. "Canaris himself told me," Dash whispered, that Berlin doesn't believe your production figures. They think Willow Run is propaganda. He wanted photographs, employee counts, shipping records, proof that would force Goering to accept reality. FBI Special Agent Charles Landman asked, "They don't believe we're producing a bomber an hour?" Dash replied, "Agent Landman, I lived here. I've seen your automobile factories. I tried to tell them that if Ford could produce a car every minute before the war, they could certainly produce a bomber every hour during it. They accused me of being defeatist." On April 20th, 1943, Hitler's 54th birthday, Canaris personally presented the intelligence to Goering at Karenhall, the Reich Marshal's ostentatious hunting estate north of Berlin. The meeting would become legendary among German intelligence officers for Goering's complete rejection of reality. Canaris had brought photographs, intercepted documents, reports from dozens of sources. He spread them across Goering's massive oak table like a dealer showing cards that would lose the game. "Herr Reichsmarschall," Canaris began carefully, "we have confirmation from 17 independent sources. The Ford Willow Run plant is producing one B-24 Liberator every hour at peak production. They achieved this rate consistently since January. Goering weighing over 280 pounds by this point in the war. And that is how determination, innovation, and courage changed the course of history. A single factory, a group of ordinary people, and a vision that reshaped the war. It's incredible how these stories, once hidden in dusty archives, remind us that greatness can come from unity and hard work. If you enjoyed this story, if you love uncovering the past, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps me bring more stories to life for you. And if you want to keep traveling through history, subscribe to the channel so we can explore even more unforgettable tales together. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.